anytime you're placing judgment, anytime you're feeling negativity, anytime you feel like you need to take, anytime you're trying to, you're obsessed with preservation, like I could break it down like this. There's 4 main losing games when it comes to money.
Boom, 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 boom. What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast with your boys, Mount Wolf and Joe Fear. Check it. Let's do it.
All right. Recording button's going.
Recording button is going. You didn't need to ask that. You knew that when I said, let's do it.
Oh, let's do it. All right. So today we chatted about a lot again.
Yeah.
And this guy, Garrett Gunderson, is a guy I worked with many moons ago in a previous business, creating some video sales letters and slides and all these designs and selling mechanisms and stuff. That's when I was first exposed to Wealth Factory. So that's his company. And it's essentially wealth education for folks. And since I worked with them, I think they've shifted basically the avatar to folks who have a business under $1 million is their primary avatar. And oh my God, like he lists out a ton of the stuff that they cover in the Wealth Factory, like in their training. And it's everything you could think about, like money management, but without needing to know all these crazy terms and like being an expert on this, but actually being competent of your wealth and money, which is huge. No one's teaching that.
A lot of people who have businesses, they want to figure out how to grow their wealth and turn the money that they're making on their business into more money and really grow that. But I think a lot of people don't quite know how to do that. And a lot of people also think that sort of wealth growth and investments and stuff, that's for the wealthy. That's what I do once I already am rich, right? And I think what Garrett, the niche that Garrett sort of found himself in is talking to the people that aren't ultra wealthy and saying, look, you can start to live like the wealthy. You can start to make decisions and move in the direction that will get you to being wealthy. But you can do it at the point you're at now. You don't need to wait until you're already rich to try to get richer. You could take your current scenario and start thinking about wealth growth now. You can start thinking about generational wealth. You could start thinking about, money as just a tool in the whole process, but not the main thing that you're shooting for. You could start to have these conversations no matter what level your business is at. You don't need to be a $10 million business or have a $10 million net worth before you start talking about some of these concepts.
Yeah. Yeah, and he identifies actually these personas, these different personality types. There's 4 of them that everyone kind of falls into, and they're destructive personalities, but there's ways to flip that into someone who you can actually be constructive with wealth and just life in general. So he'll line those out, and I thought that was actually really cool because, everyone can identify with a personality type, and I think it helps uncover a blind spot that we might be carrying not only through business, but just money management, but also through life in general, how you show up with relationships. Because we go into not only wealth, but we actually, Garrett, he got super real and was totally talking about how when he screwed up and how he showed up to his family, his wife, and how like he's had to work through that, and he has mechanisms he shares with us. Yeah. And how he now has grown past that and see how like some of these things, he was like, man, I was an asshole. Yeah.
and if you're a fan of stand-up comedy, make sure you stick around to the end. Yeah. Because we go off on a little rabbit hole about some of our favorite comedians and the stand-up comedy world, which is a fun little tangent that we go off in. That's sort of a passion of mine, is the stand-up comedy stuff. And
who doesn't like comedy, Matt?
Yeah. Come on. How many books do you have on your bookshelf about how to actually execute on stand-up comedy?
Oh, I just watch it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm obsessed with it, though, is what I'm saying. It's an obsession. I pretty much don't think a day goes by where I don't watch or read about comedy.
Nice.
But we kind of found that sort of shared passion towards the end and had a little rabbit hole on it, and I really enjoyed that part of the conversation as well.
Yeah. And the big takeaway here is figure out yourself. I feel like this will help you identify who you are, and then start to detach this kind of this importance, or this I don't know. It's hard to put in words, but basically money, the power money has over you. And Garrett does a really good job, and he gets very passionate about it as well, of how to reframe things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing, is reframing.
Yeah. No, this was a fun interview. I loved talking to him. He's a great human being, and you can tell that he's super passionate about just helping people.
Totally. Being a human.
You could tell that if money wasn't involved, he would still just want to help people. And that's my favorite type of person to talk to.
Yeah. And also he gave a bunch of resources, so we'll just put them in the show notes, and he says them in this episode as well. But we're taking notes for you, as always. Where can they get them, Mr. Matthew?
2 places.
Oh, yeah?
You can either text the word comp to 38470. So you pull out your phone, you open the little text message app on your phone, you type in the number 38470, and then where the little text box is where you want to actually type a word in, you type the word comp, C-O-M-P, and we'll send you the notes by doing that. That's one way.
Okay.
Way number 2 is you go to your internet browser on the World Wide Web, and
Netscape.
In that URL, Netscape or Internet Explorer or whatever you're using. You go to that little box on the top of the screen where you can enter a URL or a website's location.
That's at the top of the browser?
It's usually at the top.
Okay.
And you can go to http://hustleandflowchart.com.
It's not HTTPS, huh? We're not secure.
Actually, it might be. I don't know. I think either way it gets you there.
Okay.
/comp.
Oh, okay.
So hustleandflowchart.com/comp.
Got it. Okay.
I'm being very patronizing to our audience right now, aren't I?
Quite.
Sorry.
They've already skipped
Sorry
past
about
this
that.
if they're pissed off by now. Yeah, just get the notes. They're free for you for 2 weeks by the time this episode goes live, so please be quick. And of course, we do have a whole physical newsletter on the back end of that you'll see the opportunity to join. It's only $15, and you get every single episode from the month prior.
Why are you whispering? Our audio editor is just going to boost the volume on it, so it's going to sound like you're talking normal.
It was a secret. It's so cheap. Don't tell everyone. But really tell everyone. But actually, it's more important. Just get in there, because you will not regret it.
Start by getting the free notes, and if you like them, then get the paid notes.
You'll dig it. All right, so I think that's it.
Let's go talk to Garrett.
Let's do it.
Hey, before we get to this episode with Garrett, I want to tell you really quick about LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn has an advertising platform that is really, really powerful. Now, the cool thing about LinkedIn is that there's over 62 million decision makers on LinkedIn. The people that are in businesses that spend the money, the people that make the decisions in the business, they're not hanging out on a lot of the other social media platforms, but they are hanging out on LinkedIn. LinkedIn actually allows you to reach the right professionals at the right time, and it's pretty awesome. And you know what? LinkedIn ads are driving traffic and engagement right now. Whether it's visits to a landing page, registrations, event downloads, any of that kind of stuff, you can do that kind of stuff with LinkedIn ads right now. LinkedIn ads are just kicking butt for people. So you really, really should check out LinkedIn ads. And you can try it yourself. Right now, LinkedIn is actually going to hook you up with $100 in free LinkedIn ad credits because you listen to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. So check it out. They're offering $100 free. To launch your first campaign, just simply visit linkedin.com/flowchart. That's linkedin.com/flowchart. And terms and conditions apply. All right, let's go talk to Garrett.
Hey, Garrett, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, good to be on the show.
Yeah. And we were talking about, did a little bit of work for you guys at Wealth Factory years and years back, I guess with your partner, Matthew. And it was a pleasure working with you. And I remember looking at the content and everything you're putting out there. I was like, damn, this is good. Like, more people need to see this stuff.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Of course, man. Yeah. So you guys, since back then, I feel like you guys just been on that path and just keep building and growing that thing. Has much changed really since you started the whole venture there?
Well, one of the things that we discovered was, like, we weren't really after this upper echelon of the market, like the people that could afford their own family office, like these people with $200, $300 million net worth, where they could hire their own financial team that only work for them and no one else. Like, I wasn't interested in that. There's a lot of complexity. It's slow because there's a lot of people involved. And we were thinking, we're really going to go after this market of entrepreneurs doing like 1 to 10 million. And that's a really neglected marketplace for sure. But as we were doing that, we just recognized that I think it was Vern Harnish said 96% of businesses do less than $1 million of revenue per year. And we're like, who's helping them?
Yeah.
And so the thing that's really changed for us is, yes, we put out a lot of video and audio and written content, but that's kind of like resources to help people have insights and paradigm shifts and value, whether they can afford to hire us or not. But we created this program called Wealth Architecture that really reaches the heavily neglected market there, so they can have a comprehensive financial team, so they can have financial advocates to support them, so they can have someone to coach them along what they're doing in their overall, personal and business finances. And that has been a crazy, tremendous success that we're actually now having financial advisors that want to refer their people to us to support them in that. So that did not exist in 2014.
Yeah.
It came out in 2017, I believe, but it took us, 3 years of being together to really build it out. And, now we've got, 5-6 years under our belt with it. And it's become a phenomenal success for the people that are in it.
That's so cool. Yeah. And that market, of course, you're now ideally creating, 7-figure businesses by serving those folks and, graduating them up into probably some other program you might have or a resource. I could see it as being, like you said, a perfect way that financial planners or home office folks can just send leads your direction, almost partner up, affiliate, type thing. But either way, you're serving that market that they're probably not apt to serve.
Yeah. I actually remember Joe and I, we were actually at a war room mastermind that Digital Marketer puts on, and there was somebody speaking at the mastermind. I actually won't name his name, but somebody was actually speaking at that mastermind, and they were talking about the whole family office concept and all of the things that a family office can do. And Joe and I were both...
Jim?
Yeah, it was Jim Dew. It was Jim Dew. Yeah. So I guess I won't mention his name, but
he's really done a nice job, especially in that Genius Network community.
Yeah.
He's been Joe Polish's guy for a really long time. He's been in my workshop before with one of his clients. And, we actually have clients that are working with him that aren't working with us now. He's a little bit less expensive for one, and does some things that we don't really address, like money in our management, but we do a lot of stuff around the soul purpose realm and wealth engineering and business growth that I think is more our expertise. So,
yeah. I just remember thinking when we were sitting in the room, though, that, this stuff sounds brilliant, and I can't wait until someday I get to the point where I can actually use this stuff. Like, I remember thinking, like, this is awesome, and years from now, when my finances are in a place where I could use this, he's probably the guy I'm going to come to. But I don't know what I can do with this information today, and that's kind of where we got stuck with that presentation specifically.
And that's what's great is, like, he's serving a different marketplace than we're serving. Mm-hmm. So it's not, he definitely works with those 1 to 10 million, people for sure.
Yeah.
But that under 1 million, I've heard that's his cutoff, and, we love that market.
That's perfect for you guys.
That's our spot. That's our jam.
Yeah, man. Well, I know you came from a background that was anything but wealth from what it sounds like. I mean, your dad, a 4th generation coal worker, or miner, gnarly, man. God, didn't even know they go that far back. How did you break out from that whole cycle?
Dude, my mom and dad never even let me set foot in a coal mine.
Good for them.
They were so against that. I even told my dad, I was like, I want to take the kids and show them what a coal mine. He's like, why would you do that? That was not even part of the path. I mean, they really supported me to start a car detailing business when I was 15 years old. And, I cleaned vehicles from the mine that were surface vehicles. I cleaned vehicles from the credit union that my mom worked at, the repos. My mom connected me with one of the accountants that worked for the school district to teach me how to do income statements and balance sheets. And, it was just like, they saw a different path. Now, I don't know if they saw a path of entrepreneurship, because that felt really scary from a family that was, coal miners, that they would go on strike and not get paid for a while. And then all of a sudden, if I'm a business owner, is that something you can count on? And it seems really risky and foreign. And, they're dealing with generational wounds of my great grandfather leaving his pregnant wife because he couldn't put food on the table, getting on a ship, coming to America, and then not seeing his daughter and his wife until his daughter was 7 years old. Like, you make, if you don't have financial wherewithal, if you don't have a way to earn money, that creates major problems within a family. And I think that those kind of get imprinted, those stories and those, those feelings and those concerns. And so me being an entrepreneur was actually really difficult, because my family didn't really know how to support me. It was like, when are you going to get a real job? And have you thought about going to do these other things? And then they fully love and embrace it now, but it was scary.
Yeah. Well, so have you always been an entrepreneur ever since? So you said 15 doing the car dealership or car detailing, that is?
Say that. So on the car detailing,
did you bounce or did you ever actually have a job after the car detailing, or have you been entrepreneur through and through since then?
Well, I had a inbound telemarketing that I did for a year when I was in college, just as a thing. I'm trying to think if I've ever really had a job. That's about it. I mean, I started an internship in financial services when I was 19 years old, which it wasn't my firm. I worked for a firm, and, I got 1099 for most of my income. So It came from commissions and sales, but I was still representing that firm. And then I started my own thing in the year 2000. And, that it was first called Ingenuity, then it became Freedom Fast Track, and then now it's Wealth Factory. It's just been the evolution of it. So I've been an entrepreneur, pretty much ever since. And I think I'm unemployable, basically.
It sounds like it. That's what I was kind of getting at. Okay. Because you went the hard, it seems like you just went completely opposite from your parents, which, it sounds like you're almost breaking a chain, a chain of work and livelihood, and then, of course, wealth, it sounds like, as well. Would that be pretty accurate?
Yeah, we went and filmed my origin story, maybe a couple of years ago. We went to my first place I lived is East Carbon until I was in third grade. East Carbon, its heyday, I think I've heard. I've never seen it this big, but there was 5,000 people there because it was a coal mining haven. And then I think now it's got about 1,000 people. So definitely kind of a dying town. And then we went to Price, where I spent more of my childhood until I was, 18. And we just filmed in front of one of the houses I lived in and a trailer that we lived in for a little while because my dad got laid off. And my kids were with me, and they heard my wife say, well, when Garrett was graduating college, he said, there's not really a job out there that makes sense for me. I had a lot of job offers when I was graduating. There was, Merrill Lynch, Strong Investments, American Investment Bank. I mean, we can go through the list. A lot of them got decimated, but but ultimately she said, well, he just created what he wanted. And my son, when she was finished filming, he's like, what do you mean? She goes, well, he's an entrepreneur. That's what he does. And my son's like, well, that's cool. I want to be an entrepreneur. So I thought, you watch that generational impact right there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing tough work right now to heal generational wounds and change our family story, spending time with my siblings and my parents and really direct conversations with my kids. I'm taking my oldest son to Asia for almost a month so that we can really bond and do some service work and go to Seoul and Vietnam and Cambodia and see how other people live and experience other cultures so he can feel more connected to other people. We've been to Europe a lot, which kind of looks a lot like Utah in some ways. There's a lot of white people. And I think it'd be good for him because I taught English when I was 18. I went and taught English in Korea for 3 months one summer. And one, it allowed me to see how it felt to be separated from my family and the people that I, knew and counted on and loved, and how much I missed them. And it also was like this interesting adventure where I went and did something that was a little bit entrepreneurial because I didn't have a job when I went over there, and I just had to go find these teaching things. And I'm excited to go show my son, hey, this is what I decided to do when I was 18, and I really grew up. And the most important lesson I learned is we're all human beings. These are amazing people. They're so peaceful. And I met just great, gracious individuals. And before I thought, I'm an American, and America's the only free country and it's the best. And I actually love America, and I think it's incredible. And I think that every country has places to improve. But I feel very grateful to have been born here. But I also felt a sense of connectedness that I never had felt until I went there. So I'm looking to heal generational wounds, create a new story for this, where our family can break the shackles of scarcity that kind of came over with my grandfather as he tried to break free from poverty, and instead embrace abundance and embrace purpose and, understand value creation and develop our gifts and invest in ourselves. And like that work really matters to me.
I can hear it, man. And I think that's the most powerful work too. Any kind of generational chain. I mean, it could be addiction for certain things. It could be addiction to debt too, and spin that, and then that bleeds over into your kids. And I mean, I like what you said about, it's almost like you have to, you don't have to, but you could choose to remove yourself from the situation and see a different perspective and how other people live. And like you said, yeah, we're all human. We're all living this life weird game, and we're just kind of approaching things and trying to do our best. And a lot of people, their best is what their parents taught them, which is, really bad money management or anything else,
They're doing their best, man, with the tools that were provided. And the thing is, there's just so much misinformation. There's so much pain. There's so many, things that are misspoken, and some of it's deflection. You have, I remember my mom once saying that we were insurance poor. She was crying at this table. I'm like, what do you mean insurance poor? She goes, all of our money goes to insurance companies. I'm like, those sons of bitches. I was pissed.
They're the enemy. Yeah.
And then I woke up from a nap once on our camping trailer. We're out camping and my family's outside, and I look up on the wall and there's this little plaque that says money is the root of all evil with the devil. I mean, that stuff leaves an imprint, right? I remember hearing my grandma talking about someone that started this business and how they made a bunch of money because they're just taking from people. And it's you start to look at your heroes. You look at the people you care about most, or just the people that you're listening to that are older than you. And maybe we do it in a subtle way where it just gets tucked in subconsciously, but it starts to have a big impact. I mean, there's a lot of people who they want more money, but they think money's evil. Well, that's a really conflicting situation for someone who wants to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going to hold them back. And if we can just get clear that money is just a storage of value. It's a storage of value. It's just a byproduct of value. Sure, there's people that bypass value to get money. They got it because of the lottery. They got it because they married into it. They got it because they inherited it, right? That's the minority. And then you've got the other people that were coercive, or that they took it out of malintent and just, being, a-holes. And that's a portion. But the majority of it, it's simply a byproduct of you've traded, unfortunately for some people, time. But for the most people, it's value. You've created some type of value, and that allowed people to employ that value or to engage that value. And if we understand that about money, see, if money's not sports, people think money and sports are related. They're not. Sports, there's winners and losers, right? It's not. It's a survival of the fittest. There's a lot of that to sports, and we've adopted sports in our psyche to a large degree. And when we have that around money of it's winner take all, there's a finite pie. If I take more, there's less for other people. What we don't recognize is even if there's a finite amount of money, there's an infinite number of times that money can exchange hands when goods, services, and experiences and value and solving problems occurs. So it's not a finite pie. It's something that can be a lot more exponential. And those people that try to hoard it, hold on to it, get scarce around it, or think that they're just going to take it from someone, they've actually corrupted themselves. The money didn't corrupt them. They didn't understand money.
What are some, because this is huge, and I think the scarcity mindset is what gets passed down generationally. What are some indications for folks listening that, because some people probably just are walking with these things that they haven't totally addressed. Are there some common ways to identify a scarcity mindset when it comes to money and wealth that you found?
Anytime you're placing judgment, anytime you're feeling negativity, anytime you feel like you need to take, anytime you're trying to, you're obsessed with preservation. I could break it down like this. There's 4 main losing games when it comes to money, right? 4 main losing games. The first game is the game of the miser. The miser is in a stuck mindset where they're playing not to lose. That's their game. They're just trying to hold on to what they have. They are going to spend however much time to save money. They don't care how long it takes. That's what they're doing. They're playing a game of preservation, right? Then you've got the conservative. The conservative, that's not a political ideology. This is someone who's playing the game of retirement. They're just trying to sock away as much money as they can so that one day, someday, things will be better. They're delayed gratification at every turn, right? They're just save, invest. Then you've got these other losing games. One is called the striver. The striver is playing a game called status. The striver loves capitalism no matter what. They just want to take as much as they can, get as much as they can, and they're willing to burn out even if that's what it takes. They don't have hobbies. They realize that there's going to be, body bags along the way because they don't care who they hurt. Now they might a little bit, but their overriding selfish state is more, bigger, better, faster. And then you've got the high roller. The high roller is playing a game called opportunity. The high roller is kind of the ultimate taker. They have people believe they're really going to take them to the next level. What they just take is their money, right? They're users in a lot of ways. They're name droppers all the time. Those are the 4 losing games of how people operate with money, right? And what's crazy is those same characteristics of those 4 losing games and 4 personas, if it's shifted to value for others, to solving problems, to collaboration, it actually, you take those same characteristics and the miser becomes the mindful manager who's instrumental in making sure organizations are efficient with their cash, making sure they're getting the best deal before they jump into something, making sure something's being utilized if it's being paid for. Amazing, right? The conservative becomes a planner. A planner builds pro formas and looks at what needs to happen and what the risks are and builds out the management process and the structures for something to be implemented to come to fruition. The striver becomes the creator, creating innovation and ingenuity and building new jobs and new ways of getting things done. And the high roller becomes a catalyst, connecting others and finding hidden talent and uplifting them and taking them and directing them in great directions. Like, it's the same characteristics, just played either in scarcity and destroying wealth or limiting it because no one shrinks their way to wealth, or played in the game of value creation, of expansion. Because again, it's really about, there's only so much you can do alone. There's only so much you can save from the money that comes in when you budget. There's only so much time you have to sprint and hustle before you get adrenal fatigue and fall over and die, right?
True.
Like, that's the deal.
Yeah, I love this because it's starting at the personality level. It's probably things that we're just unconsciously walking around doing in some facet, but you can flip it. There's another side, a different perspective to that personality, and it's only how you show up. Is it scarcity, or are you flipping that to be as one of wealth and abundance?
Right.
I love it. Yeah.
And there's all these lies that we're told, like people that succumb so much to fear, they buy into socialism. Hey, I can't take care of myself. I need other people to take care of me. Or they hate the dirty cronyism that happens in politics, and they see, people that are taking, and they're, it's all like about who you know and that kind of good old boy situation. So they want like someone to intervene because they feel powerless. And then you look at capitalism and people are putting it on high. This is so amazing, so great. But guess what? When capitalism becomes what we can take from others in a competitive nature, that we don't care who we hurt along the way, and once again, is a lot of times devoid of value creation, what we're really looking for is, how do we have a platform where we have freedom to make exchanges with one another? I exchange my value for money because you exchange that money for other value that you're looking for. It's really about taking care of each other. But when people are in scarcity, they're so selfish, they don't think about taking care of someone else. And that's what keeps them broke. It's this strange thing. And then what we do is we blame it on politicians and politics, and we blame it on, corporations and greed. And then we have all this blame, but we look no further than the mirror when we succumb to scarcity, when we just complain instead of do, when we don't have a vision for ourselves or our lives, but we're just trading time and activity in exchange for money and materialism. I think that we have a very major crisis on our hands, and the crisis is of the individual. How do we discover our soul purpose? How do we know our value? How do we figure out our abilities? How do we find things that we have energy for, and then combine that in a context that engages us in the best of who we are? That's the game. And look, I could tell you all about money. I could tell you how to save tax for days. I could tell you how to plug leaks and restructure loans and renegotiate interest rates and put money in your pocket that way. I could talk about, how to restructure insurances so there's not duplicate coverages and put money in your pocket there, or where you have hidden fees or drag on your investments or taking too much risk. And that's actually the easier part. That's the easier part. The harder work is for people to get clear about what they really want and show up the best version of who they are, because there's too much weighing on them.
Dude, it's mindset. Yeah, it's getting the head straight. And yeah, we talk about this. We were just talking about this on a couple other episodes in different ways, but getting this, it's almost like putting constraints on yourself, but having a good perspective of knowing where your goal is, but almost creating a practice for yourself that you fall in love with, make it your own, like what you said with the 4 personality types, more or less. That's what I'm calling them, at least, is identify who you are first, and then know what you are capable of showing up like in the world, and in this case, money and wealth, and then build a plan around yourself, but stick to it. and it's hard as shit, you know, to do that, but it's a new habit that you got to instill with yourself if that's really what you want.
Yeah, you got to know, what are your traps? You know, what are your traps? What are your trump cards where you don't face things, right? That's like, what makes you a miser versus a mindful manager, and what does it take to stay in the proper side of things, right?
Yeah.
Now, how would somebody go about like uncovering? You know, I feel like a lot of people listen and resonate with this stuff, and they go, I get that, but maybe they're too close to their own scenario to realize what things are holding them back. You know, how would you maybe walk somebody through, like, here's how you discover these sort of mindset mistakes you're making?
Well, just yesterday, it was the second full day of recording where I did the Win Then Play playbook. So Win Then Play is my solution to the play not to lose, holding on to the past, play to win, only seeking for the future, never enjoying the in-between. Win Then Play is you design the game yourself, so you've already won it from the moment you're engaged in it. It's kind of like the one, you know, like, it's been a big thing with Kobe's death, and there's a lot of stuff, you know, being talked about and shared and speeches he gave. But man, the one that really was profound to me is where he said basically what I took from it is the win is the work. It's not just the byproduct. It's the time he was dealing with stretching and Pilates and the early morning shooting. He's like, that was the win, when you can enjoy the journey. You're not trying to get to that destination. And it's like, so when people are going, he was the hardest worker ever, I'm like, yeah, but the work was the work that he chose. Most of the world is the hardest workers because they're doing the work that they hate. And that's the difference, man. There's hard work that you love, and then there's hard work that's hard because it's against everything that you stand for, right? And so what we're doing on these personas is we're actually, I just had my chief copywriter was just at a 2-day mastermind with Ryan Levesque. We're building out a typology quiz to identify which one people have. I've got 2 segments in my 10 moves to Win Then Play that are dealing just with this. So I even have like a question someone would ask, and I'm like, how would the mindful manager answer it, and how would the miser answer it, so that people can see the distinctions? And there's 10 questions. I'm like, and here's 10 more powerful questions to actually put you in the mindful manager versus get trapped in the miser. And then I'm just leading with, I've been all 4. When I was first married, I read Millionaire Next Door, and I was a miser, man. We were living in a crappy apartment. Like my father-in-law was like, hey, you can live in our basement rent free. And I told my wife, she goes, yeah, sex free too. I mean, she was like, are you stupid? And I was like, okay, well, let's get an apartment. And I gave her such a dangerously low budget for it that I found out that there was places you don't want to live in Utah, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Like, I gave her a Christmas present once, which was a phone case that didn't fit her phone because I got it for $1. I mean, dude, I was a jackass. That's the miser in me. Then when I was the conservative, I was saving more than 50% of our income into our retirement plans. And I was buying real estate properties, even though we were renting. Right. And then she tried to order wine at dinner once, and I actually lectured her on the opportunity cost, because if we would invest that money into this mutual fund back when I thought those were okay, you know, that it would be worth, you know, every dollar would be worth $220 more, you know, 40 years from now. And it was just absurd things like that, being the conservative. Then when I was a striver, that's where I spent the most time. The striver is where I was just, when people are like, what are your hobbies? I'm like, dude, I work. I have a business. Like, I work all 7 days. I left the hospital early when we had our son because I had an appointment, even though my son was in an incubator with a bunch of tubes and needles and everything popping out of him. Looked like he was ET when they discovered him and put him in that hospital. And my wife wasn't thriving after the delivery. They had to do some like minor surgeries with her. And I left. That's the striver, because I had to go work, is what I said. And today, dude, just today, my wife and I had a difficult conversation. She's like, you were a selfish prick back then, she told me. I'm like, you know what I was? In my 20s, when I was a striver, I was a selfish prick. I didn't consider anyone else's feelings because they didn't understand. I'm evolving. I'm making a difference in the world, but I was just trying to make a name for myself. And the problem is the striver has an unfillable void that no amount of money, accolades, work, anything will fill, because it's just not taking care of loving themselves. And then finally, I dipped my toe in the high roller. The high roller is like the ultimate narcissist. Like I had this Bentley, and this magazine was interviewing me. And so I'm like saying the douchiest things, like, oh, Jed, you know, like I just have so much money. How would I ever spend it over my life? The universe kicked me in the nuts within days. Like, let's lose 200 grand on this real estate deal, you a-hole. And then we went and took pictures out of the salt flats with my Bentley and my Escalade. And I remember putting it up like on whatever social media. I don't know what it was. And some guy's like, what douchebag does this? And I was like, yeah, this stranger / new friend had it right. I mean, I remember parking. So we went to a hotel and they didn't park my Bentley up front. I turned around. I'm like, what's wrong with them? They didn't put my car up front. She goes, what the hell's wrong with you that you care? I'm a high rolling douchebag, you know? Let me tell you the people I know that I have dinner with. It was just, you know, like, so I tested these out. And I kind of went from phase to phase thinking, miser sucks, let's be a conservative. No, conservative is not great, let's be a striver. Striver's not good, let's be a high roller. And the reality is, all along, what am I? I vacillate between the creator and the catalyst. I love to connect people. I love to discover like greatness and be able to help lift that up. And I love to be, I'm more of an artist than an entrepreneur. I love to create like this one-man show that I'm working on with entertainment and comedy and a contextual shift. So like, you know, I think when we can be honest with ourselves, there's room for progress, and nobody's got it all figured out. And for those that, you know, listening to this is what I'll say. Perfection is a plague of society. It's holding us back. We can't control all the variables. Imperfection is part of the process. It's part of the beauty. That's why comedy works, is because it's about imperfection and flaws.
That's right.
You know, and so stop trying to be perfect. It just makes you seem like a pretentious douchebag like I was. And, you know, if you like, what people want is connection. Where connection comes from is just being who you are and radical self-expression. I'm writing this one-man show. I'm going to dance at the end, dude. I'm a 6-foot white guy. People called me Cord in high school because I was uncoordinated. How awesome is that? I'm going to play guitar and sing, because it's not about being up there for perfection. It's up there to be an expression, right? It's expression, and it's permission for other people to be who you are, whatever that is, in all your glory and all your imperfections. You just got to figure out who you are and love that, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation so much. This is definitely resonating pretty hard with both Joe and I. And one thing that you said a few minutes ago was actually one of the things that's been the biggest aha moments for the decade for me, was when I had the realization that the work is what we need to take pleasure on, not the end result that we're shooting for. If you wake up every day and the thing that you're working on every day is what brings you fulfillment, that is what we're striving for, not the fact that we need to be working towards a future goal that we think will make us feel fulfilled. And I think that's been such an aha moment for me. And I think you touched on that a minute ago about that, you know, when you mentioned Kobe, like that's really the thing. That is what we should be striving for, is really finding fulfillment in the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, not trying to find fulfillment in a future outcome.
Right. And dude, you know what's crazy about that thing is how many people are judging him over this thing that happened in, I think, like 2003.
Mm-hmm.
When are we going to stop trying to like look at someone's worst moment and say, yep, that dude had an act of contrition and for anything with his wife and had more kids? Like, I can't imagine the courage it took to face that situation.
Sure.
And there people are crapping on him because like this girl, Kat Hoke, wrote a book and she does these things in prisons where it's like, imagine if you were known for your worst moment. And I'm like, I just think we need a little bit of compassion and empathy in the world today, you know?
Yeah.
And then we don't have to deflect from our own flaws. They're there, they're fine.
Yeah. And this goes back to you going to Asia with your son and showing him people, showing him new people and like different cultures, and how there are all these things that are completely unknown to us, but at the end of the day, it's the human experience. And you mentioned loving yourself. I mean, we had Kamal.
It's a hard thing to do, isn't it? Isn't loving yourself hard to do?
It's like the hardest
hard
thing.
as hell about myself, right?
We all, especially high achievers, and you know, we had Kamal Ravikant on the show. He's a buddy of ours, and he just released his book, "Love Yourself Like Life Depends on It." And I'm like, that's literally like the only thing you can really control in the world is yourself and your actions.
And we don't really have an instruction manual for it. And I don't know that I have the solution for it, but I could tell you this. The way to love ourselves is we've got to avoid the escapism of life. Escapism could be being a workaholic. It could be, you know, going to masturbate when we're rejected. It could be turning on the TV. It could be listening, for me, sports talk radio for no reason. I even watch the games. I mean, there's things that are there for pleasure and enjoyment. And there's times where those can all be pleasurable and enjoyable, but there's other times where it helps us to avoid the pain. But what we do is we just take on background stress. We avoid what's going on. And on the other side of the pain is actually love and connection. It's radical self-expression. And it takes a degree of radical vulnerability to love ourselves because, you know, like, dude, I hate admitting some of the things. Like, you know, like, dude, I wanted to be 12% body fat, and I was for a while, and I was boring as shit. I hated it. So like, I got some more, like, you could see my abs, but you could also see a little belly there, you know?
You had a little fun,
like,
too. You had some drinks or whatever.
And I'm like, dude, and then I just got to eat something I wanted multiple times rather than like be a buzzkill. And like, for those that have the discipline that, like, I'm only talking about myself, and I held hate in my stomach. Like, it was just a reminder of imperfections, right? Or I look at the gray in my beard and I judge myself. Now in my hair, I was like, no, that's wisdom. And that looks good. But the beard makes me feel old. And I have like there's just all these little judgments. And what I decided was, I'm not going to just pretend they don't exist.
Yeah.
I'm just going to talk to my wife about them. I'm just going to write about it. I'm just going to work on loving myself. I went to 40 years of Zen. I went and did, 5 deep therapy sessions with some MDMA. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. I want to love myself. I don't have the map for it. So I'm opening up. And all I found is if I go through the pain, and you know what? I've just been telling people, I don't care whether they're men, women, I'm just telling them I love them. I'm writing letters. I'm just doing the work to stay connected, right?
Dude, that's it. I mean, what more in life is like will bring fulfillment and joy other than human connection, starting with yourself and getting real and understanding and loving yourself, but also extending that love. I mean, it's endless amount that you can give back to the world and layer in some wealth on there and imagine what you can do with that to even, expand on what you're personally bringing to the world. It's almost like a scalability approach at that point. Wealth can help you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at like if I can remove the obstacle of money and make it an asset and ally, that's a gift. It's no longer something to be intimidated by or confused by. It's something to be like, oh, this is just what happens when I'm clear about the value I create, how I create that value. And then I just need to make sure to be efficient with it once it gets in my hands, because a lot of people want a piece, whether it's government or other people, when you're successful. And there's some basic structures to get that done. Doesn't need to take a lifetime. Hell, we teach it in our Wealth Acceleration Workshop in 2.5 days. People have clarity walking out. What's handled, what's not handled, what's the blind spots, what's the plan look like that gets you economically independent so you have enough cash flow coming in to cover your basic expenses? What's the low-hanging fruit to, plug leaks or boost revenue in your business? Like, it's just all of a sudden not so intimidating. It's like, okay, wait, you now have to know about tax liens and options trading and syndications and real estate. And I don't have to know about commercial versus residential and fix and flips. And I don't need to know about, exchange traded funds or hedge fund. Like, we think that we got to know about all those things, but guess what? We all have an investor DNA, and some of those things might be pertinent to some and not to others, because risk isn't in the investment. It's in you, the investor. You just got to become a good investor in a few things and just focus instead of diversify. Focus when you're trying to grow, and then protect it like crazy. Andrew Carnegie put all of his eggs in one basket, watch it like a hawk. I like that, right? You diversify when you've made it, when you're just trying to preserve what you have. But until then, you invest heavily in yourself, you expose your skill sets, you add more value, you build a recurring revenue or cash flow from your assets. And that's the game of wealth. And then you enjoy life from now until the future, not just at retirement.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's definitely hitting us. I mean, what you're saying, it resonates with us so much, and it's conversations that we've been having quite a bit lately on this show is about this kind of stuff exactly. There was one question that I actually wanted to ask about the sort of mindset around money, and it's something that I personally kind of struggle with, and I'd love to hear your take on it. Is sort of the difference between abundance versus making smart financial decisions. So you mentioned earlier you were out with your wife and she wanted to order like a expensive bottle of wine or something, and in that moment you thought that was not a smart financial move.
But she wanted to order a glass of House Red. I was a conservative. I was like, it was $6. $6. It was $6. So I wish it, but yeah.
So basically what I'm getting at though is like, how do we know if we're, you know, I have this struggle between like making smart financial decisions, but also having a mindset of abundance, right? Like if I say, oh, I really shouldn't do that. That's not a smart financial decision. That also seems to be kind of counter to an abundance mindset. Does that make sense? So,
so let me help you. Like there's abundance and ignorance, and they feel like they're related, but they're totally different.
Okay.
There was a time where I thought I was Midas, that everything I touched turned to gold. But the bottom line was I was lucky. I had good timing in the moment, but that didn't mean that I had a skill set. So I thought I was being abundant by buying more and more and more and more real estate, saying yes to more and more and more opportunities, doing oil and gas, doing the hard money lending fund, because I'm abundant. Yes, I could do all that. But the problem was I was distracted and I was being ignorant because I didn't know enough about these things. I didn't have a real end goal other than more, which is a very dangerous end goal because it's never achievable. And so what I felt was abundance was actually just stupidity, if I were to be really harsh about it. So if you want to be abundant financially, you have to kind of buck the shackles of budgeting. And the way that you do that is you got to pay yourself first in a savings way, right? Like 15% of your personal income being set aside before that's your first bill is paying that. Then you live off the rest and you don't borrow to consume. So if you have the cash, you do it as long as you paid yourself first. If you don't have the cash, you don't do it. It's like there was a Louis C.K. bit where he was on Conan and, he talked about back in the days before credit cards. He goes, you'd have to go to the bank or you have to write a check or all this kind of stuff. And he goes, and when you're out of money, you just stop doing stuff. Yeah, it's time to get back to that, right? Because we've been taught consumerism in a very deliberate, destructive way because Edward Bernays, the father of consumerism, had us believe that happiness was because of materialism. And the more material we had, the more powerful we were, the more sex we would have, the more envy we'd be. And you know what? It gets people stuck in activity, not thinking clearly. And so when we spend more than we actually have, that leads to debt. When we try to buy something because we think it's going to make us happy and it's going to be a stretch, we put ourselves in harm's way. If we've paid ourselves first, we've got money left over and we want to buy something, great, buy something. I have very nice material things. I like Etro jackets. They're not cheap, right? I could get cheap jackets, but I like Etro ones. I got an expensive taste in a few things. I like that kind of quality of life aspect. And you know what? We all can have value-based spending and guilt-free spending as long as you've taken care of your first things first. Just take care of, paying yourself first, build up a little bit of savings and liquidity. And then, man, it's a game changer when you get enough cash flow coming from assets or even entrepreneurial-based income to cover your expenses that now you could actually start getting a 2-to-1 ratio, $2 of recurring revenue versus every dollar of expense. And yeah, you could maybe increase your lifestyle at that point if that's what you choose. Just get clear about what you want. Otherwise, you might be using that as escapism, or you might be using that as like, I told you so, I'm successful. Look at me drive my Bentley. Hell, when I took my Bentley home to my hometown, they just thought there was something wrong with my Chrysler 300. Did you screw that grill up somehow? Why is it right? Like they weren't impressed.
Shot to the ego, I bet.
The only one impressed were teenage boys. Teenage boys, they love that thing. That wasn't my market segment, but
right.
Well, you said
I've made the mistakes. I just am willing to admit the mistakes. I'm not a perfect.
Yeah, it makes sense. You said something. You got to know what you want first. I think that is a huge exercise. We've done that, and it's at least from our perspectives or what we want. Matt and I did this individually with a coach a while back, and it's you quickly realize a lot of the shit is not physical. It's more like what you said. It's time. It's go have fun. Go live your life.
It's experiential more.
100%. At least it was for us. Yeah, and it's like you can. We had James Altucher on the show here, and he talked about how you can live a billionaire lifestyle, but on a 6-figure salary or income, making sure you could do a lot of these extravagant or these big things, but maybe you're renting or maybe you're you're just testing the water. There's ways to live this big life if you want it, but really it goes down to what do you really want, and then putting a little figure to it, and doesn't cost as much as you think typically.
Yeah, man. I mean,
I like it. Yeah,
I think that we do a lot of stuff to prove things that were never meant to be proven. That we're never, that we do a lot of things because we think it's and there's a lot of lies, man. I remember the first time telling my wife, I'm doing this for you. Like, right. I'm doing this for the family. She's like, really? You doing all this is for us because we just want you around more. And, you know, like it kind of seems like you really love what you do and I want you to keep doing that. But I could tell you, you know, she's really smart. She's like, tell you're torn, you're feeling guilty where you're there. When you're here, you're distracted and, you know, we don't even really get you. You're not really present. I really had this epiphany. It's like, you could spend 5 minutes with someone and really have it count for just everything. And you could spend, you know, 5 weeks and have it count for nothing or actually count against you because you're just not there. And it's hard to be present in today's world. There's distractions and noise and, you know, so much to be done that, you know, like I have my book here, Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker. I'm reviewing it. Love this little book. And, you know, it's like, yeah, there's nothing worse than doing something that didn't need to be done in the first place, right? You know, or enthusiastically running in the wrong direction. He's just got so many good like nuggets in here. This book, Managing Oneself, is just phenomenal.
Perfect. Well, that's a good recommendation. We're going to ask you that later. So that's a good one.
This actually is a good segue into another topic I want to talk about. We were actually just talking to a guy named Trevor Turnbull for a different podcast interview, and he actually mentioned your name. And he's like, "Oh, when you get on the podcast, ask him to talk about his 14-4-6 strategy about you know how to have the best relationship with your wife." He actually didn't have the numbers right. I fixed them for him, but or you fixed them for us. Yeah. But he said that you talked at one of the Genius networks about how to improve your relationship with your spouse. And you know, Joe and I are both married, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are married. So I'd love it if maybe we could dive into that a little bit before we wrap up here.
It's cool that he didn't get the numbers right because they've evolved anyway. I mean, the original 14 was 14 nights away internationally. Now we typically didn't do that trip in one. We did an Egypt trip that was 11 days, and I think our youngest felt a bit abandoned. But you know, just time, because look, my kids are hopefully temporary visitors here at the house, right? They're going to grow up. They're going to have their own thing. And my wife and I are still going to be here. So I'm like, we've got to cultivate this relationship along the way. So, you know, when we first went to go international, we went to go to Copenhagen. We get up to the desk and she just breaks down crying because we're going to leave our son with, you know, my parents who love him. But she's like, I feel nervous. I feel like something bad could happen. I feel like I got a bad feeling. I'm like, yeah, you're leaving here. And I'm like, just standing at the counter being like, I don't really know what to do here. Right. But then we worked out like, hey, we should really travel and miss them, have them miss us, and just have some time to be like romantic and connected without these, you know, little sleeping romance terrorists who's super cute, but let's face it, you know. And then the you know, basically the 4 days where if I'm gone more than 4 days in a month, then I take a day off during the week. So, you know, that was just a way to say, hey, you can travel, but let's be careful with not letting that get out of whack. And then the 6 was 6 p.m., just being done with everything by 6 p.m. off technology and all that kind of stuff. That's probably more like 5 o'clock now, maybe even 4:30 a lot of the time. And it's leaving the technology like in the office or not having the phone around. And that way we could be more connected. And we've just having conversations recently that like, I'm like, we should really either get rid of some of the TVs or just completely unplug them, because it feels like, you know, it prevents pillow talk, which is the time that her and I just connect and talk and, you know, what's going on and, you know, what are you dealing with? And, you know, what are you excited about? And another part of that talk was having weekly meetings. You know, my wife and I had a weekly meeting today where it's like, what's the schedule coming up? What's going on that we need to work on? How am I doing as a husband on a scale of 1 to 10? You know, what are you most excited about? What are you struggling with? Like, we just created space that we can once a week talk about these things so they don't creep into date night. They don't creep into a night where you're exhausted after a day of work. Like, there's a safe space to talk about these, and you know what's going to happen. You do that in business. Why don't you do that in your marriage, right? And then probably the biggest thing, I don't ask for this often, but I did today. This is a rare thing, but it's huge. And it's a do-over. What if you mess up so bad that it starts creeping into your fights? It starts being in the background, right? Like, you know, so I just, you know, I was like, dude, I really screwed up. Can I get a do-over? Like, I remember walking home, they were walking in the office one day when I just bought this company. It was not doing what I wanted to do. The person I bought it from was being complicated and from my shoes. And it was just a brutal day. And then she's like, I had a rough day. And I'm like, you don't know what a rough day is. Like, I'm just a total asshole.
You one-upper. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And then I see her start like kind of like feeling sad and crying. I'm like, oh, wait, like, oh, and she kind of lashed back out saying, I'm like, I'm doing all this. And she's like, well, when you get home, you're tired, might not as well come home early anyway. And I was like, oh, it was just bad. And so I just drove around the block and came back and I'm like, hey, can I get a do-over? I don't know who that a-hole was that came here earlier, but like the do-over kind of like lets it go, breaks down the walls, like says, look, I don't know who that was. Like, let's get, like, it's not something, if you did it daily, it doesn't count. But if there's something that's still lingering, like, so these are just some of the anecdotes that I gave over a 10-minute time period. And I thought the most hilarious thing is Jay Abraham came up to me. He's like, that was an extraordinary talk. My wife loved it. How do we hire you? I'm like, oh, I gave all the advice I have to give on the topic.
Not a relationship coach.
I've got nothing else. That's it.
Yeah. No, dude, I love it though, because like you said, we do this in business and we think it's like part of a routine. This is something that helps drive a business forward, which it does. But the relationship that really matters at the core is the one at home. I mean, nothing.
And it all bleeds together too, right?
Totally
like if you're having arguments with your wife, or the family relationship's not going well, it will affect your business and your work. So
if you guys go to wealthfactory.com/marriage, that talk is on there.
Oh,
and I also gave that talk at Mastermind Talks, although that wasn't my best one. I tried to fit too much in too short a period of time, and honestly, I thought I was kind of an asshole of a husband when I was giving it. My wife was there. I'm giving this a talk, and I got some unresolved issues. And then,
she's in the background like, you lying mother.
And then there's like our weekly agendas on there, and even our quarterly and annual agenda are on there. So if any of it's helpful, and there's even interviews, I think, with my wife and I being interviewed by 2 different people or one person, depending on which interviews are up there. But I think her perspective is way more valuable because, dude, she's a patient woman that allowed me to make a lot of like mistakes, putting my family second, or third, or who the hell knows, like forgave me for leaving the hospital early. Like, sees the best in me and like loves me. She knows all my quirks. She knows all the imperfections, all the stuff that people think I am from stage, and then I've got it all figured out. She knows when I'm balled up and crying because I'm just a hurt little boy. And dude, I adore her for that.
Dude, strong women. We need them. And dude, and thanks for sharing.
How scary the world would be without women. It would be the scariest place ever.
Thank God. Thank God for women. Hold them up high.
Just a bunch of egos trying to one up each other all the time.
Oh God.
Dude, we would just like have the most elaborate video game consoles. We'd live in cardboard boxes, dude.
Never actually see each other, and
it would be awful. Everybody's fighting and punching each other. It would just be a terrible world. It would be Mad Max.
It would be. I was just thinking that.
Cool technology. That'd be about it.
Amazing technology, but great.
Or would it? Because I wonder how much.
Maybe not,
I wonder how much technology advancement is a result of people trying to impress women.
True. Like, dude, I used to be so good at Guitar Hero. My wife's like, that has never turned me on. You play guitar now. So I think video games would be epic still, or even better.
Yes, right? I could see that. Yeah,
that's true. My video game.
We'd have an amazing like sex robot that pretends to be a woman.
AI is getting better by the day. So some of these. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh man.
Oh, that's funny. It's so true. All right. So wealthfactory.com/marriage. I'm going to go there. I've not seen that talk yet, but I want to. Thanks for sharing that. You already mentioned a book, Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker.
Yeah.
Would you recommend anything else at this point, or like, is that a go-to for?
I'm going to go back to the book War of Art again by Stephen Pressfield. I think that's I love that book. It was a, rock my world kind of book. As a writer and getting over my excuses.
Literally everything Stephen Pressfield has put out has been pretty good. I mean, I've only read his nonfiction work. I've never actually read his fiction work, but all of the nonfiction work that Pressfield's put out has been amazing.
I read so little anymore, and most people wouldn't admit that. But dude, I can't read and while I'm in the middle of writing things because I don't want to be influenced by something and then have it feel like it was mine and then adopt it. Or like, So I I don't really, and I just am rereading books that I'm not worried about. Like like Stephen's like, work through it. Be a pro. Okay. I'm not trying to take any of that, managing oneself is like, okay, just looking at my own life and the way that I operate. And, it's not really, I've read this one book over and over called Married Man's Sex Life Primer by Athol Kay, just because it's like super fascinating on how the science of attraction works and, why relationships break down. And it gave me kind of I'm definitely a romantic, but I'm like a robbing romantic. Like I rob my ideas. Like I watch a romantic comedy. I'm like, oh my God, that's a great idea. That's now my idea. We're going to eat in the dark restaurant. Hell yeah, I saw that in a movie. Or we got to watch movies outdoors by a fireplace on a projector. I saw that in a movie. I'm like, that I'm in. So
hey, it's a swipe file, man.
That's okay. Ideas. Yeah, this is a swipe file. Like it's in a movie. It's not like I'm taking it on as my own. So.
Right, that's all right. Nothing wrong with that. You don't have to tell your wife that.
Yeah, I know that particularly is a big issue in the stand-up comedy world. Is comics can't watch other comics because they're afraid their jokes will bleed into each other.
Yeah, I solved that for myself. So I watch stand-up a lot. I love it. I mean, every now and again I feel a tinge of jealousy when I watch some of it. I'm like, that's such a good joke. Like especially like if someone has a financial joke, I'm like, God, why didn't I think this? I could use that. And so I have to quote them. But I decided my stand-up's just real stories. It's just like my real life and funny takes on it. So even though someone once said that they heard Kevin Hart say that his kid said, hey, are we rich? That really happened to me. My son said, are we rich? But what's great is Kevin Hart's response was very different than my response.
Right.
My response was, well, shit, son, I have no clue about you, man. That's it.
I love it.
But so I could share that. That's a real story. And maybe my comedy is 85% real and then 15% totally a twist that didn't happen. Or a lot of what I'll do is I'll say that it was me when it was really my kid's uncle.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have time to be like, well, his uncle, I'm just in the mix. I'm like, well, I'll just say this, but it allows for not worrying about stealing other people's jokes because I have written jokes. I wrote a joke about Lululemon, right? And then I'm watching this special, the guy that does, what's his name, that does Crashing on HBO. I watched his stand-up.
Oh, Pete Holmes, yeah.
Yeah, Pete Holmes. He had a Lululemon joke. Not exactly the same joke that I wrote, but close enough. My joke was, every time I buy Lululemon, I go into the store and I feel like it's just everything's false advertising. There's people doing yoga and working out. I'm like, I put it on and that's when I know I'm going to the couch. I know that's when it's time to veg out and do jack shit. I'm not working out in Lululemons. I'm just getting comfy in them, so.
I could put my feet up better. No restriction.
I love it.
That's funny. I love it. Who's your favorite comedian?
Let me just give you my top 5. That's easier.
That works,
Love Bill Burr. I think he's brilliant. Love Dave Chappelle. I saw him in August and he did 20 minutes of the funniest 20 minutes I've ever seen in my life. Just absolutely hysterical. I've enjoyed, I saw Jim Jeffries recently. It was good, not as good as his old stuff, but still just stuff that he's put out there. I've still got him. But I think the most genius comic of all time is Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh, I think he's brilliant.
Dude, I can see myself doing some of what these other comedians do. Now they're genius. I'm not taking anything away from them, but I can see, I've been on stage, I've delivered jokes, people laugh. But when I see what he does with Borat or with This Is America or whatever it's called, or, I'm like, dude, that is unbelievably ballsy and funny. It's unbelievable. So then there's so many great comedians out there for sure.
Yeah, that's a good list right there.
Yeah, I mean it's really in a renaissance right now.
Sebastian Maniscalco, number 5. Sebastian Maniscalco, number 5.
Oh, that's a new one. I've never actually heard of that.
I don't know it. Yeah.
Oh, I just gave you guys a gift, bro.
What was that? What was that last name? Sebastian what?
Maniscalco.
Maniscalco. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch his newest Netflix special because I was seeing him live and he was so good live. My wife was laughing so hard, he looked down at her a couple times.
And who's this crazy lady?
He's got a strange cadence. He's an Italian. He actually was in the show Green Book. He was in the show that I didn't watch by Scorsese that just come out, The Irishman, because
never seen either of those.
Yeah, I heard good things.
But he has just some bits that are so good. And I think What's Wrong with People might be the stand-up thing that I like the most of him, or Aren't you embarrassed? It might be, it's either what's wrong with people or aren't you embarrassed? Whichever's the newest of the two, that's my favorite. And then he has another one called Stay Hungry that, like I said, I watched it live, which is a little bit different, but yeah, that's the crew for me. That's
awesome.
I know what Matt and I are going to do after after we hang up here.
This is our last podcast of the day, so now you just planned out the rest of our day. Well, cool. We're hitting the hour right now. Where do you want people to go after listening to this episode? Where should we send them to?
Wealthfactory.com/megakit, because if they want to get, like, Killing Sacred Cows will help them through navigating the myths and areas where you might not have the right mindset around money. And then they'll get What Would Rockefellers Do, which is a very practical application of one thing you can do with your money to just kind of store it as a medium-term strategy and to initiate a legacy. It has some pretty cool differentiating factors between the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, and why if one family made it, the other one, they both made more than, it was a huge amount of money. But one of them decimated that wealth and the other one has been perpetuating it. So they get some cash flow guides if they want to put more money in their pocket. Like, it's a mega kit. So it is literally like 5 things they can download on that are pretty valuable things. So I just want to build a relationship. In full disclosure, you'll be on my list. We'll email you about 7 times a month. Every 7th time we'll make an offer, and we'll do that for 7 months. If you still don't, like us, then it'll just be whenever we happen to be sending something out. But
go buy Garrett's stuff, though. It's really good.
So that was wealthfactory.com/megakit.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Bam.
Just want to make sure I got it correct.
All right, man. We've already kept you a minute over or so I appreciate your time. This has been fun, man. And went directions that I didn't know we would go, like comedy. It's even better.
Never know.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Thanks, guys. You guys are great. It was a lot of fun. Take care.
All right, you too. See you.
Thanks so much for tuning into that episode. I hope you dug it. I know Joe and I dug it. I actually kicked Joe out of the room. He's not here right now because I wanted to tell you about a tool that I really, really dig. We use it in our business. We recommend it all the time. It's called Easy Webinar, and it's a tool that lets you do live webinars, automated webinars, hybrid webinars, and, pretty much any other kind of webinar, if there are other kinds of webinars. But anyway, this tool is kind of like your all-in-one, do-it-all tool for anything webinar related. It's Easy Webinar. It's put out by a dude named Casey Zeman. He's been on the podcast. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's a killer episode. He's a really smart dude, but his software is amazing. It does everything. It's, the title tells you exactly what it does. It's an easy webinar platform. And we use this in our business to run automated webinars all the time. We don't do a lot of live webinars these days. We like to do the kind of automated webinars where somebody can register and then they can either watch it like 15 minutes later or they can watch it the next day, but it's just kind of always running. And it's a system that helps us make autopilot sales off of our webinars. Super cool tool. If you haven't tried it yet, it's an amazing tool. And Casey is actually hooking you up. He said for listeners of Hustle and Flowchart, I can't believe he's doing this, but he said for listeners of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast, he's giving 25% off of the membership to use Easy Webinar. It's already super, super inexpensive for what it does and all the cool features it has, but he's hooking you up with 25% off because you're a listener of Hustle and Flowchart. Go to easywebinar.com/hustle. That's where you can get that 25% off discount. That's easywebinar.com/hustle. It's a awesome tool. You're going to dig it. So just go grab it. Check it out. easywebinar.com/hustle. See ya. No, not see ya. You'll hear me in the next show. I don't know how to close these things. Go get Easy Webinar. Talk to you later. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Before taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address and we'll send you the notes. Thanks for listening.